Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, the 18th of September, and it's time, of course, for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble with me, your friend, James Mullinger. Okay, let's go. As you know, last week I wasn't able to finish getting through all of your amazing questions because I was rambling on about everything I was doing that week. So what I'm going to do this week is do the questions first. Well, I'll say first. I would like to first of all thank everyone who came out to the St Andrew's Comedy Festival at the weekend at the beautiful Kingsbrae Garden Amphitheatre. You've all heard me wax lyrical about this gorgeous performing arts venue before. The amazing Mrs. Lucinda Flamer, who built this colossal and stunning amphitheatre in that has the capacity to hold essentially like 3 times the size of the town of St Andrews, and the proof's in the pudding. Like the amount of people that flocked out to these shows. Friday night was Jeff Owen and Jimmy Flynn on stage, 2 legends of New Brunswick and indeed Canadian comedy. And then Saturday night, myself and the amazing Mr. Ron James. And I just met so many people from the States, some people that have flown over from England for it, if you can believe. And people from across Canada, and it's just that amazing thing of the example of, build it and they will come, and that amphitheatre is just incredible. Massive hats off to Mark Goslin and his incredible tech team, Pete and Denise. The sound, I mean, it shouldn't work, given how many gigs I do where I'm dealing with awful, tech situations and bad sound and all the rest of it. The fact that we are outdoors and from the stage, you walk up the hill to the Kingsbrae International Residence for the Arts house where we were all staying, which was just beautiful. Staying in that grand house with these legends of Canadian comedy. My son Hunter came for it as well, and so we all had dinner together that night. Lovely chef Pam, who works in the residence, cooked us all dinner after the show. It was just incredible. And actually, when Brad Henderson and Daniel at Kingsbrae said to me that they were planning to do the comedy festival this year in September, I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's a bit late. What's the weather going to be like? It was really nice being able to start the gig, obviously, at 5:30. And as we've seen, I mean, what is this weather? It's absolutely gorgeous. This is like, this feels like when I'm in a resort in Mexico. It's kind of tropical heat. In September in New Brunswick. Obviously climate change not a good thing, but this beautiful weather, bloody good thing. Actually took some time off yesterday. I say that it's kind of research. My wife is currently working tirelessly around the clock on this year's Rothsay Yule, St. John Regional Hospital Foundation fundraiser that we do every year. And she's kind of looking for vendors and doing all the research and reaching out to sponsors and all the kind of hard work that goes into organizing an event that attracts thousands of people, raises tens of thousands of dollars for charity, and brings in for local vendors hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of takings in a day. Anyway, point is, and actually she's got some help this year. We have an amazing intern from UMB who is studying publishing, book publishing and magazine publishing, and she is working with us on that and indeed various other things related to the next issue of the magazine. So anyway, busy time. But my Pam came across this again, it's funny how you discover things like given how we make it our life's work to know what's happening in this region in Atlantic Canada and in New Brunswick. It's colossal how many things are opening and happening, and you go down these rabbit holes. Like she discovered an event that was happening, and then she saw the photographer that was speaking at this event, and then looked at the photographer's work, and they had these beautiful pictures of people with pumpkins, and we were like, wonder where that is, and we see where it is. And anyway, we went there yesterday afternoon. We suddenly just decided the sun's out, let's stop work for a bit and let's drive to a Sharp Brook Flower Farm. Oh my goodness, if you love pumpkins and different coloured pumpkins and different sized pumpkins as much as I do, you have to go to Sharp Brook Flower Farm. It's we ended up in the middle of nowhere. Like it kind of is middle of nowhere, also centre of the universe if you love rural New Brunswick as much as I do. So we drove down to it's kind of it's in Lower Millstream, which is so small. Kind of Norton is the big city, if you will. So that gives you an idea of how. But it's really, really what I love about these kind of little adventures when you go out to discover somewhere is you end up in these. There's all these places that you pass all the time. You pass on the highway, and you don't necessarily know. Anyways, went and got gorgeous smoothies and coffees in Hampton on the way, and then went to and Sharp Brook Flower Farm, and like I say, just absolutely gorgeous. Go and check it out. They have a Instagram page. I believe it's two sisters, Ellen and Sophie. I just discovered looking on Instagram, who own it and run it. It's a dairy farm that they have been operating. Their family's been operating for something like 200 years. Anyway, I've become obsessed with them and what they do, and just check out the pumpkins. I posted some pictures of these gorgeous pumpkins on my Instagram page yesterday. So anyway, check that out. So anyway, I will get to your questions, and then I've been rambling for 5 minutes already. I just discovered something, by the way, that I did not know existed. Now, as you know, I mean, I write a lot, and as you know, with my ADHD, I wake up at like 3 a.m. trying to do a million different things, and I'm constantly trying to do a million different things. I'm constantly, right now, I'm currently obviously writing my second book that has been obviously commissioned. I have a great agent, and we're talking to publishers, but I'm also writing a novel. I'm also at any given time writing, I would say, 6 or 7 different magazines for articles obviously for the Maritime Edit, articles for other magazines and newspapers, also writing diaries, also writing material. I mean, so constantly, but I'm not a fast typer, and my laptop is a piece of shit because it's Apple, and they're designed obviously to implode, explode, self-destruct after 1 year because God rest his soul, Steve Jobs was. Not him, but his people, someone there, is pure evil. And my laptop's maybe 18 months old. I've granted I type a lot, but the keys on this MacBook Air are completely destroyed, just all crumbling, falling apart. Anyway, what's my point? Yes, I just discovered the dictate button on Microsoft Word. Did you know this? So basically, due to my ADHD and my constant just wanting to produce and be productive, I can't type fast enough, and as a result, sometimes my typing is as messy as my handwriting, and indeed as rambly as my rambles. I just discovered there's a dictate button on Microsoft Word. Am I like a decade late to this discovery? You can open up Word, start talking, and it will just type up what you're saying. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like I noticed these podcasts, for example, are transcribed on Apple Podcasts, which is incredible to me. Like all this absolute that I'm talking, it gets obviously it's not being transcribed by a person, or maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe there is some terrible sweatshop somewhere in I don't know. Children having to sit type all this bollocks up. But anyway, of course, it stands to reason. Of course, there would be a dictate button on Microsoft Word, but I hadn't discovered it, and I just discovered it, and oh my God, that's going to be absolutely life-changing. Anyway, it does sound, some of you right now are probably, if you are new to this podcast, you are possibly looking to check if you've accidentally pressed the times 0.151 speed button. No, this is the speed at which I speak. So anyway, one of the questions that I didn't get to last week that I wanted to answer, I'm desperately. Oh, by the way, I'm at the Hampton Brewing Company tonight. I'm very excited about that. And this relates to what I'm about to say. Hampton Brewing Company tonight with Brady Mandeville and Corey Hartlin, 2 amazing comedians who will both be joining me next Friday at the Frederickson Playhouse. Tonight in Hampton is sold out. Next Friday at the Playhouse is almost sold out. But I will say I'm also at the Playhouse next Tuesday with the Symphony New Brunswick. As some of you might know, I'm taking part in their season opener concert. A world-class orchestra, some of the finest musicians anywhere. Symphony New Brunswick, also obviously the cover story of the current issue of Maritime Edit. Melanie Leonard, the maestra, she will be conducting, although I can let you know a secret, I might be doing some conducting at this show. We're doing Monday night, we're in rehearsals all day this Sunday, and then Monday night we are in Riverview. For Tuesday night we are at the Frederickson Playhouse, and Wednesday we are at the Imperial Theatre in St. John. It is some of the most well-known, magnificent pieces in classical music history being played by a world-class orchestra with me talking in between. There is Monty Python. There is all kinds of fun. So anyway, there's tickets available for those, and then I have one night off, and then I'm back at the Playhouse that Friday night for my tour show. So anyway, it's a busy week next week. Every week's a bloody busy week. So questions. Yeah, this question is from DJ Steve. If you've been to a wedding or an event or anything in the last decade and a half, you will know DJ Steve Adams, an absolute legend, dear friend of mine, one of the first people I've worked with when I moved here, and also he also is a very highly regarded credit professional who again, it's an amazing thing about the Maritimes, you can be like a leader in your field in 2 separate fields. But Steve very kindly, and I often see him at the YMCA, my fellow. Okay, that is so weird. Literally, right after I was slagging off MacBook Airs and Steve Jobs and Apple, the computer crashed. So I'm not saying that Steve Jobs is haunting me from the grave, or that Apple are so petty in their mission to destroy their own products. They're the only company in the world, literally, like that's how the world's changed. That decades ago, companies took pride in their products, and now they're literally designing them in a way that they self-destruct. So we have to keep just buying new ones. People used to take pride, like, "Oh, I've had this fridge. I've had this fridge for 30 years. We've had this oven since the day we were married in 1872." Not anymore. Now it's like, no, okay, we've designed this amazingly awesome product. How can we make it so that it self-destructs? Anyway, it was just bizarre. My computer crashed. Anyway, I'm back. I don't need to tell you this really, because I'm sure amazing Reese at Podstarter, is going to edit this seamlessly, so you wouldn't even know. But basically, I was rambling on about the amazing DJ Steve, and then the computer just completely crashed. And a good thing we weren't recording, because if, don't like using bad language on the pod. Okay, so DJ Steve, the point about the Hampton thing was the last time I saw Steve was actually at Hampton Brewing Company, the show I did there over the summer. So nice being able to do, like I say, outdoor shows in September. Steve was also responsible for very kindly booking me for a national credit conference in Halifax a few months ago, and it was without question one of the most enjoyable keynote speeches I've ever given. I was having a bad run of keynotes prior to that, or just kind of like, it was just an absolute. It was just amazing, just a wonderful audience. Like everything about it could have gone wrong. It was like 9 a.m. at the end of a long week. People travel all over the country. They're in Halifax the first time they've been partying. It's 9 a.m. on the final day. Also, not helping matters was the fact that I had a gig in Fredericton the night before at like 9 p.m. So I travelled through the night. And it was just a barnstorm, and it renewed it made me love keynotes again, so much so that I've literally filled next year with keynote bookings, because yeah, isn't it nice when a fellow performer can help you out both in terms of work, but also restores your faith in the craft that you do. Anyway, Steve sent me a question. I didn't have time for it last week, so here we go. Hey James, I hope all is well with you guys and your family. I have a question that you may or may not want to share on your podcast. Well, again, I answer anything, so I definitely will, even though I have not read on. By the way, I'm a few days late listening. Not that you know that, but I felt guilty. Oh, that's nice. You're a loyal man, good friend, and loyal man. This question kind of stems from a conversation I had with a father of the groom at a wedding last weekend. I'm telling you this so you have a little context. He comes up to me, shakes my hand, and says, "You're DJ Steve." I of course say, "No, I'm James Wallinger." I'm kidding, of course. I said, "Yes, of course I am." He says, "I've heard about you. I actually heard about you on a podcast, James Wallinger's Weekly Ramble. I'm expecting amazing things from you." Oh, nice. I'm setting you up for a high standards there, Steve. But that's what Steve does. Steve never disappoints. He's known as the king of entertainment. I take a deep breath and say, "I really wish your expectations were a little lower of me. That way I have a little wiggle room," I chuckled. Nothing like a little pressure on his son's wedding day. This reminds me of a conversation Christina and I had. She said, "Are you tired of always having to be on?" I didn't quite get what she meant, so she elaborated. She said, "No matter where you are, you're always DJ Steve or some variation of that. So my question is, are you tired of always being on? What do you do to recharge? How different, or if you are, from James the dad and husband to James we see and love?" Well, that's very kind, Steve. My thoughts on that whole question was, if I was portraying myself to be something different outside of the quiet space, which is my home, I feel I'd be totally exhausted. But I guess, thinking about it, is that I'm basically the same person whether I'm Osco or DJ Steve. The only thing that differs is maybe the level of intensity. I'd love to hear your take on the situation. See you at the gym. Well, it's an excellent question, Stephen. Thank you very much. Am I tired of always being on? Well, I'm not. The thing is, I'm not always on. To answer your question, obviously I'm on it. It's partly why when I do gigs, the quiet time before the show is so vital. It's why, for instance, often when you're doing a keynote or you're doing an after dinner gig, they often ask you to sit at the table with the CEO or whoever it is, and it's one of those things that generally I think most performers do try and avoid, because we don't want to be on right before. It takes a lot to get into the headspace to walk on the stage. I I'm not. I mean, I try to be an entertaining dad to my kids, but again, that's just love. But then also, obviously, I mean, I love what I do, but I'm certainly not on. My wife often laughs whenever people say to her, like, "Oh, it must be so fun living with James Bond." She always says it is not fun at all. He's miserable, and I guess that's the thing. So I'm not always on. If people when people are very kind enough to come up to me in, I don't know whether it's Costco or Walmart, and say nice things, always extremely grateful for it. And I think people are possibly surprised when they meet me that I'm quite shy off stage, in that I'm not the same person at all, and actually do kind of, get suffer from social anxiety somewhat. So I never get tired. I'm tired of gigs, because adrenaline, that energy comes as soon as I'm in that space. But yes, I'm kind of I'm not really always on. And I guess it's different. Like for you, Steve, like when you go to a wedding, you need to be on the whole event. Whereas generally when I'm performing at something, I'm on for the 90 minutes I'm on stage, and then of course afterwards when I'm chatting with people and meeting people, which is just a pleasure. But I don't have to be funny, and I'm often really aware of that when I do meet people. I'm often thinking, "Oh my goodness," they're thinking, "Oh my god, he's so funny on stage and he's so boring off stage." And that's partly why you kind of limit those like dinner table encounters at corporate gigs, because again, it's like, uh yeah, I don't want to disappoint people, and it's funny because I mean it's happened to me before where I've admired a comedian and then got to spend time with them, and it's like, oh god, they're miserable off stage. They're really boring. They're really boring in their life. But again, that's the reality, and that's why a painter's not always painting, and I'm sure Mick Jagger isn't always being Mick Jagger. What do I do to recharge? I mean, it's a very good question, because it is very important, and one of the things that my wife kind of has been instrumental in instilling in us is being aware that, like, on the day of a gig, I really shouldn't be running around like a headless chicken doing 50 other things, which I often am very guilty of doing. And it might be that I'm juggling tons of different family things, things with the kids, trying to do other work, trying to have meetings, trying to write magazine articles, and really I should focus on the show. So we are, but really to recharge for me, it's all about water and the beach. And I mean, again, in wintertime, I mean, swimming is, as you know, I mean, going to the YMCA and swimming. Um, I have an amazing personal trainer, Tara Day, who, again, when I'm in the gym at Rossi Athletics, and I'm being that's time away from the phone, and time away from, and just focusing on. So yeah, it's interesting how exercise, I have found, really does play into recharging and helping mental health, and again shutting up all the voices in my head. And I guess, how different are you from James, the dad and husband, to James? I mean, I guess for the most part the same, but it is just that thing where stand up is just such a different beast, and it's such a different art form to being. It's funny, they often say that, like, they often say that, like, because I was never like the class clown or anything like that. They often say that the funniest person in the pub, or the funniest people around the dinner table, doesn't make the best type of comedian, because it's such a different discipline. Although I have friends back in England that are always kind of complaining that that I haven't. Oh yeah, friends, very highly critical friends, saying that I actually haven't managed to translate the funniness I bring to a party to the stage. They don't think that my stand up actually is as good as what I do on a dinner table, which is very, I guess, a compliment, but also an insult. I hope that answers your questions, Steve. But yes, to me, the real recharge, it's like you're walking across the Rossley Road, going over the rail tracks, sitting on the beach, looking at that view, looking at Long Island. That is my favorite place to be in the world, and never feel more relaxed than when staring at water or in water swimming. That's my. So thank you very much, Steve. Beautiful question, and much appreciated. Sean and Jennifer Mooney, beautiful, wonderful couple. They always send the most amazing questions. Super important question. The fate of the planet may literally be in your hands. You're sitting at Pearson Airport, and Air Canada has surprisingly delayed your latest flight to St. John. A stranger approaches and asks if you'd mind watching his carry-on while he runs to the restroom. While you're watching his luggage, a genie appears from within and tells you he'll grant you one wish, anything you want, if you give the stranger an HJ. Oh, a hand job. Do you earn the wish? And if so, what do you take? World peace, a bigger D, or something else? Extra wishes isn't an option. Well, I'm a people pleaser here, Sean. So to be honest, I mean, yes, I would almost certainly want ask for world peace or for everyone in the world to be happy, or would that then cause some kind of some terrible reaction where suddenly we weren't able to enjoy happiness because we didn't know what sadness was? Are we only able to enjoy good things because of sad things? Who knows? So what would I but the thing is, I mean, like I said, I'm a people pleaser, so the reason this doesn't really work for me is if a stranger walked out to me and said watch my bag and give me a hand job, it'll make me feel good. I'll probably do it because I'm a people pleaser. I want to make people happy. So yeah, I mean, of course I'd give. Yeah, because if Janie wants me to give a stranger a hand job, not a problem. If someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, I'm having a really bad day and I just want a hand job," yeah, why not? I mean, but if on top of that I get world peace as well, jolly good, happy days. Jay Howitzer has thank you, Sean and Jennifer. Jay Howitzer has asked if I ever cheated at a board game. Yes, definitely. Although I'm not as bad as my children are. Literally, it's just terrible. You're playing Monopoly with them, and they get up to go to the washroom, and there's Monopoly money falling about. There's houses they've stolen. And it's just absolute disaster. I probably have cheated, but it's not really my forte. I don't really care enough to want to cheat. If you want to play a good board game, St. John Monopoly is magnificent, as is James Mullinger Monopoly, which my friend Shelby Lowry created. If you've not seen this, I will send you the pictures. She created a James Mullinger Monopoly where literally all of the locations of things like where Zeller's used to be, Walco, St. Stephen Pitter Pit, 50 chickens stolen. It's absolutely brilliant. It's literally the whole thing is just all based on all my material. Lovely Valerie. I hope you're well, Valerie. It was great seeing your son at Stu's awesome vintage pursuit shop in McAllister Mall. And if you haven't been to Vintage Pursuit, you really should go. Valerie has asked, do I smoke the wacky backy? The wacky tobacco? No, I do not. I used to as a teenager. Doesn't agree with me anymore. Just makes me either sleepy or wine is my vice. And I used to occasionally when consuming alcohol. I used to occasionally smoke the odd cigarette. I managed to knock the full smoking on the head a few years ago. But the last couple of years, I have indeed been smoking while drinking, although I have managed to knock that on the head as of about a month ago. So that is something I'm trying to avoid cigarettes completely. But no, and I know obviously that, but no, the wacky tobacco either in weed form or edible form does not agree with me, but I am very much pro it. I know lots of people love it, and I'm very happy it's legal, and I cannot quite believe that it's still illegal in England, where people are literally in jail and going to jail for possessing and dealing cannabis. Absolutely madness. I don't need to say this, but I'm going to stop the recording in a minute. But I probably don't need to tell you that because it's literally just going to be edited together. So it's not going to, it's not, you know, it's doing anything. Nothing's going to change for you. It's just going to be 10 seconds. Or it's not even 10 seconds. It's going to stop. Then it's going to restart. But I've got to run and play soccer with my son River in a sec. So I will just quickly. Tim Andrews has asked the question: do I listen to podcasts? I do listen to podcasts. Which ones do I listen to? I mean, I love Bill Burr, obviously. And do I listen to this one? I sometimes listen to this one just to see how badly rambly it is. David Nicky has asked, what are my favourite things about New Brunswick so far, and how much of the province have you been able to enjoy? Have you been able to visit Woodstock? It's my hometown. Yeah, Woodstock many times. Love Woodstock. Been there many times. Performed there at the Dooryard Arts Festival. I was there a couple of months ago, interviewing Marcel Leblanc about the amazing 12 Neighbours programme. I hope to go back to Dooryard next year to perform again. I performed at the McCain Theatre. I've been to Woodstock many times for soccer games. My son played soccer tournaments there. It's my dream to stay at the Yogi Bear campground. But yes, to be honest, I have performed in almost every big town and city in New Brunswick, but it's my dream to perform in all of them. So, like as I mentioned earlier, went to Lower Millstream. I'd love to do a show in Lower Millstream. It's interesting how many there's a wedding venue called Bates Barn that is in rural New Brunswick. Would love to perform there. There is Cornhill Nursery Cafe. Would love to perform there, and I think I'm performing there next year actually in a fundraiser for the Axe Art Centre in Sussex. Anyway, point being, there is so many pockets in New Brunswick. And I think my big aim for 2025 is to try and perform in more of these little barns, Lions clubs, churches like that. The church, the beautiful United Somerville Church, I performed in recently. That's my dream, to perform in a lot more of these kind of tiny rural venues. I'm going to run and play soccer, and then I will be back to answer the rest of the questions, do a recap of the past week. And anyway, I don't need to tell you this. I don't tell you what's coming up. It's going to come up for you in about 1 second. Okay, bye. Okay, I'm back. He beat me, obviously. He's a amazing. He's a goalie for his for the teams he plays for, but he's also very good at playing. And the score, interesting enough, was 2013 to him, which is also his birth. Yeah, which is very cool. Anyway, back to the questions. So, but again, to continue David Nicky's question about my favorite things about New Brunswick. I mean, I'm constantly discovering new things. There's a definite feeling, especially while we were kind of researching um, artisans and potential vendors for the Rosselló, and looking at all of these. It feels like when we moved here 10 years ago, there was only a handful of, for example, creative agencies and film production companies here and photographers. And it feels like there's just been this boom in the last decade of so many amazing photographers, so many incredible companies doing video production and film production. And I don't know if it's something that we necessarily recognize, that New Brunswick has seen so much growth in the creative fields. I mean, comedy alone. I remember when I moved here, there was maybe 5 comedians in St. John, maybe 10 in New Brunswick, and now there's like hundreds. Similarly, like I say, film photography. Like now, I mean, when we started the magazine, there was a handful of photographers, and maybe just I didn't know them all. But now there just seems to be so many, and I think what it is that as a region, supporting local artists, photographers, filmmakers, all of those things, it has kept people here. Traditionally, these people would grow up here, and then they would move to Toronto or Vancouver or to England or to the States, and now they're staying in this region. And I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. And similarly, for all these incredible wedding venues and barns and restored, um, you know, not sheds, barns again, I guess. There's so much to discover, and it's funny, like today, like I say, going out and discovering this beautiful Sharp Brook Flower Farm and thinking, my goodness, when we started the magazine and everyone said to us, oh, you're doing a magazine about Atlantic Canada based in New Brunswick, you're going to run out of ideas. And I am not joking. If I had the resources, I could produce one of those, a copy of the mag every single week. You look at the current issue, a feature on Dreamboat Lucy, an amazing fashion jewelry designer who moved to Prince Edward Island and works from Prince Edward Island, has her dream life on Prince Edward Island, but sells this, designs and creates this jewelry and sells it globally. There's a gazillion stories out there like that. And I would say, incidentally, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Maritime Edit, to watch an amazing film to accompany that feature by Denis Duquette and his team at Uproar Productions about Dreamboat Lucy. There's so many stories there. I mean, we could literally do. I mean, similarly, we have a big feature on Long Bay Brewery, my beloved Long Bay Brewery. Love their beer. Love their. That was one of my. Steve asking about my how have my downtime. As you will know, like I never drink when I'm working, so that often means I'll have like kind of 5 days of no drinking and just working. And then basically when I got back Sunday after the St. Andrews Comedy Festival, I grabbed a couple of cans of Split Pants Brew, the amazing gluten reduced lager that Pilsner that Long Bay makes. And I went down to the beach and just sat there enjoying the view, sipping Long Bay. But my point is there's tons of amazing breweries that we could be also covering. Nordic spas. There's an amazing feature on Mysore Nordic Spa and Resort in the issue. But there's lots of these Nordic spas. And I keep hearing of new ones, and keep hearing of Pam was telling about some amazing new domes that have opened. I mean, there's just so much. And it feels like 10 years ago, and even when I would visit here 20 years ago, one cool thing happening was such a big deal, and now there's so much stuff happening all the time. We can't even keep up. And yeah, like I said, I could easily do an 80-page magazine every week on all the things if we had the resources. Although I will say we've got a lot of very exciting projects coming up on the magazine, relating to the magazine. I mean, one of the collaborations that we're working with now is with Arts and Culture NB, which is getting copies of the magazine with features on New Brunswick artists into a lot more hands across the country of the right people, which has been a joy to make happen. And we are currently actually having very exciting conversations about um, doing bilingual versions of the magazine, which again, all very excited, all very in early stages, but we've got so much going on. I would be daunted were it not for the facts that, as per Dr. Meredith Henry's amazing advice, whatever you've been through before, whatever you go through, you've been through worse before, and you've come out of it. So I refuse to get panicked about all the things that we have going on. But it's anyway, it's an exciting time, and it's interesting. I didn't expect 8 years into the magazine for things to be kind of better than ever in terms of the not just the support, but also the amount of collaborations we have going on big projects. So anyway, I hope that answers the questions. Angelo, I want to pronounce your surname correctly because you are a wonderful, wonderful man. Angelo Harkiolakis, beautiful, beautiful Greek name, I'm assuming. Angelo, but please do message me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Send me a voice memo so I can get it right. Harkiolakis. But Angelo, thank you. James, maybe it's just me. When we look back at some of the weird and funny things that happened during COVID, like the toilet paper shortage, I would think you could come up with some funny jokes from what we all had to endure. Just a thought. Well, it's funny you say that, Angelo. You should check out my, I think it's my almost Canadian or becoming Canadian stand-up special. Basically an hour and a half of that. It's an hour and a half of COVID jokes. I will tell you, as bad as COVID was, I got a ton of material. And I'm not saying that I was hitting a writer's block, but when COVID happened, I was somewhat treading water with material. And then when COVID happened, I would say that some of my material I'm most proud of is the material that I came up with about following the hours in showbiz and what it was like doing Zoom gigs and drive-in gigs. The amazing story of CHCO and the anyway, and the yeah. So I'll read the rest of your email. I love how some people drove around by themselves in their cars with masks on, and how you had to try to figure out how you were just by looking at the eyes, and the famous 6 feet lines and arrows at Walmart. That one was funny. Anyway, well, Angela, yeah, you should definitely watch my special, Becoming Canadian. I think it is. It was my Imperial Theatre show from 2022. It's the whole thing's on YouTube free. If you want COVID material, there's, I'd say, an hour and a half of it there, and yeah, I'm really proud of how that show came together. And it's weird. I felt like COVID material was done to death, and I felt quite. I'm stupid. I didn't enter. I was scared to release that special as an album because I felt like the COVID material felt outdated. And then meanwhile, tons of other, well, lots of Juno nominated comedy albums were full of COVID material. Kevin Bridges, the amazing Glaswegian comedian, his special, which is brilliant, by the way, just got added to Netflix about 2 weeks ago here in Canada. It was a DVD release in England. I had previously bought the DVD and loved it. Half of it is about COVID stuff. And it's funny, and I felt like I was flogging a dead horse a bit with my COVID stuff. Like I went on a bit long. So now I don't really do it anymore. Well, I don't. I mean, I've dropped all of that material. But like I say, COVID was very good for me creatively in that I did come up with this whole new. Basically, I had a show booked for the 14th of March, 2020. And obviously, you know what happened that day. Everything got locked down the day before. The show got postponed once to June. Then obviously June didn't happen. Then it was postponed to December. Then we split it into 4 shows to do it distance. Then there was a super spreader. And we went into full lockdown, so we couldn't do it. So we refunded everyone. And basically, it took me 2 years to do the show. What was interesting was the show that I had planned, the 100-minute show I had planned to do that night on the 14th month, got completely overhauled and rewritten. So by the time I did the show 2 years later, it was a whole new show all about COVID, which is kind of actually similar to what happened when I moved here in February 2014. In that I moved here, Judith Mackin encouraged me to book the Imperial Theatre that October. uh, absolutely convinced that I'd be able to sell it out. She was, and I was determined that it was absolutely impossible. But I went along with it, and she was right, and she helped tirelessly to help me fill that as a newcomer in this new place. Anyway, I booked the theatre planning to do my tour show that I'd been touring the UK with the previous year. 6 months living here, of course, suddenly I've come across all the ferry boats, the homemade wine, and boom, by October I had this whole new show. So anyway, it's funny how these things, when life gets crazy, for a comedian, it's kind of a good thing. So yes, Angela, yeah, you're absolutely right. It does make good material. I hope you enjoy it all. So check that out on YouTube. Charlotte Flewelling, wonderful Charlotte Flewelling. You always join me up. You're like one of the only people who listens to the podcast on YouTube. I know lots of people listen to it on Apple Podcasts, but I know you listen to it on YouTube because you always comment on there. Thank you. What's my current obsession in food, pop culture, and life in general? My current obsession. Good question. I just finished reading a book called Fox Hunt by a amazing writer called Luke, who is based in St. John, and it is the most colossally amazing, like John le Carre style spy thriller, Cold War espionage, paranoia. Also, interestingly, is about people who start a magazine, a radical magazine. The characters are poets and writers and magazine editors, and it was just a joyful book. And I met him briefly at the New Brunswick Book Awards earlier this year, which he was nominated for Best Book for his second book, and his third is coming out next year. And staggering, this guy's written 3 literary. I mean, I've only read the first one, but it is a literary masterpiece. You would think it was written by someone in their 60s. The guy's under 30. It's absolutely. He was born in Ireland, moved to Canada at a young age, lives in St. John. Really charming, softly spoken, very modest, humble gentleman, and an absolute fiend behind the typewriter. What else has been my obsession? I watched that Netflix. These aren't obsessions. These are just what I've watched this week. I watched the Conor McGregor film documentary Notorious. Yeah, again, I'm always watching. Oh, who watched? Did anyone watch the UFC fight on Saturday night? UFC 306. It was interesting. O'Malley lost. I believe it's his first loss, and Dana White. And I'll be honest with you. I have found that you can illegally stream, pirate stream UFC fights now, which I do not feel guilty about doing because Dana White, not the nicest person, and it's a bloody ripoff. Interestingly, so this Saturday night, Anthony Joshua, the British heavyweight, an absolute gentleman, met him through GQ days, lovely man. He has a big fight at Wembley Stadium. 90,000 people are watching this fight in Wembley Stadium, and it's on DAZN. That's spelled DAZN. I don't know why I've heard them pronounce it DAZN. Boxing, the app, the channel. I don't know if you have it. I am a subscriber to it. Anyway, the fight is on pay-per-view. Fascinatingly, the Anthony Joshua fight. So a few weeks ago, when I paid to watch the Floyd Mayweather and John Gotti's grandson fight, it added up to about $100 to watch this fight, and it was actually an exhibition fight, so there was no winner. Waste of money. The UFC fight of the weekend, I believe, was like $70. Anyway, I'm going a few tangents here, but my point is the Saudis. Again, I know the Saudis do some bad things apparently, but they have created this new system whereby they are obviously behind a lot of these fights, even the ones in Wembley, in London. And the Anthony Joshua fight this weekend is $19.99. It is $20. It's also £20, so the Brits are actually paying more. 19.99. Now, the plan for this Saudi idea is to combat piracy, make it affordable. Genius. Because again, for $20, I don't mind paying $20. And that's what it used to be. I was actually watching a VHS video of a 1993 fight that I'd recorded of Sky Box Office of Shannon Briggs and Lennox Lewis fighting. And it was interesting watching this and hearing the commentators. And I believe back then it was probably £10 or something, which is again, Um, but the fact that these pay-per-views have gone up to like 90, £100, just an absolute rip-off. And again, so Dana White's always bragging about how there was 20 million through the gates and 20 million. And I believe this UFC at the weekend, the celebration of Mexican culture, and it was at the Sphere in Vegas. I saw Gordon Ramsay posted a video actually of how phenomenal it all looked. But anyway, Dana White comes out afterwards and basically slags off O'Malley's performance. And it just seems weird to me. And you see online the way that people talk about UFC fighters and slag them off, and so and so's a pussy. And blah, blah, blah. It's like these are people getting into a ring, a cage, the octagon, beating seven bells out of each other. And people are saying, "Oh, your performance wasn't very good." But it's like this is these people punching each other and blood everywhere. Oh my goodness! The fight, the other fight, the fight that was before the main event on Saturday night, just absolutely horrific. That one of the fighters, she had a cut above her eye. Blood was just pouring. I mean, but seemingly they're not stopping the fights when people are in this state now because they're anyway. It's all slightly actually disturbing. Anyway, point being, how did I get onto this? Oh, I guess this answers your question, Charlotte. What my obsession is, but I just thought it was really interesting that Anthony Joshua's fight this weekend reasonably priced. So as a result, rather than deal with buffering and streaming and being booted out, but people will just pay for it. And I think that's the thing: is make things affordable. Do what Walmart's doing with food. Make things affordable, and people won't steal it. Not that I was stealing food, but you get what I'm saying. Everything's a rip-off right now, and it's nice when someone whatever it is the Saudis do, the terrible things they do. I believe homosexuality is illegal there, so again, that's not good, obviously. But and I will not forgive that just because they're making boxing fights cheaper. Obviously, just make it clear that I do not think homosexuality should be illegal. Obviously, but the Saudis, they might be. I don't know. Do they? There's all these rumors. You know, when you hear things like the Saudis chop off people's hands for shoplifting, is that true? Is that a racist? Yeah. Anyway, going down a rabbit hole. Other obsessions. I watched that Into the Fire documentary on Netflix about the poor mother who gave up her child up for adoption. And anyway, oh my goodness, one of these true crime things. When you're watching these true crime things on Netflix, and you're like, am I watching this for the right reasons? Is this just sick that this is people tragedies that have occurred to innocent women becoming entertainment? I don't know. Kate. Where are we? Nathan Dimitrov, one of the best comedians in the province. Again, another great one. Who is the funniest bearded bathhouse comic that is 41 that you've ever worked with, and would you work with him again? The answer is yes. It is you, Nathan, and I believe I'm going to be working with you next year, thanks to lovely Mark Savoy in Campbellton for the. Am I allowed to talk about this? Well, there's going to be a comedy festival in Campbellton next year, and as I think I said on the socials, I hope that the wonderful Caitlin Dean will be also playing that festival too, since Caitlin and I, despite having been friends for 10 years and her being one of the most hotly tipped and I hear so many wonderful things about her stand-up, and yet I haven't had a chance either to see her live or share a stage with her. So hoping that will happen next year in Campbellton. Madeline Donovan has sent some funny news stories for us to share. Again, I don't do much news on here, do I? I saw today on the Guardian newspaper in England that Justin Trudeau is being pressured to quit. I guess that's always happening. He's lost some big election in Quebec. That's bad news. Obviously, Donald Trump says that with the Kamala debate last week, I guess hopefully has sealed Trump's fate, his bizarre performance. Well, it's always, I don't know, I could have thought bizarre performance. Did you see that Melania Trump apparently has an autobiography coming out next month? And given the fact there's been no publicity about it, there are some people speculating that maybe this will be her big moment of, is she going to dish the dirt? Is she going to, I don't think so. I suspect she's coming out with like, it's going to be like a last ditch attempt to get Trump elected. I don't think, everyone keeps thinking that she's like, surely she's going to do the right thing at some point. But why would you just assume just because she's a woman that she's going to do the right thing? For all we know, she could be as evil as her husband. And let's face it, I mean, she did choose to marry Donald Trump. Again, not my place to cast aspersions, but I suspect if past behavior is to anything to go by, that she is as in it as he is. Anyway, Stories. What else is good? There was some other news story, a big thing happening. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, this is much more important. Manly and Donovan shared the real story. A squirrel steals a GoPro. That's right. A man left his GoPro camera on the ground only to have a curious squirrel snatch it up and start filming his own adventure. The footage from the camera showed the squirrel climbing trees and exploring its surroundings before finally dropping the GoPro. If animals could be filmmakers, which one do you think would make the best documentaries? Bloody good question. I mean, the shit that animals must see. I mean, a squirrel must be quite high up the list of stuff. I mean, a quispamsis deer, I bet, sees a lot of swinging through the windows. I bet they see a lot of swinging. Did anyone know? I was talking about this at the weekend in St Andrews, so swinging often comes up when you're there. What is the go-to symbol in the window to signify that you are a swimmer? Someone told me it was like a tide container, Tide Pods. Gives a whole new meaning to the Tide Pod challenge, doesn't it? How many can you fit in your mouth? No, well, Tide Pods, that is, not your neighbour's genitals. What? Who do I think? My dog Willow, I think, would make a good film. No, I wouldn't. It's just literally, if my dog Willow made a documentary, it would literally just be me going, I love you, my baby girl, all day long. So no one wants to see that. How do I think the squirrel reacted when it saw itself on camera? Probably the same way. It's weird. Willow will bark at her own reflection all the time, which is so weird. Like, I never understand that. Like, dogs are very smart, but when you see someone identical to you barking at you, why would you not? I mean, we all jump sometimes when we see ourselves in the mirror. Do I think this world has a future in Hollywood? Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, look at some of the shower of shites that do make a career in Hollywood. I don't doubt it. But who would want that for the squirrel? The squirrel would probably develop a drug problem, start sleeping with underage squirrels, and just behaving deplorably. So, yeah, thanks, man. That is good news. Next story: man dressed as Batman rescues a cat. A man dressed as Batman became a local hero when he rescued a cat stuck in a tree. The story quickly went viral, with people joking about a new superhero on the scene. If you had to dress up as a superhero to do something mundane, which superhero would you choose? Um, which superhero would I choose? Kick-Ass. I would like to choose the Christoph Mintz-Plasse. Is that his name? Doesn't sound right. The kid from Superbad who was in. Oh no, he was the. I don't want to swear on this podcast, so cover your ears if you don't like bad language. But he played the character, the mother, in Kick-Ass, didn't he? Kick-Ass was such a good film. I watched it recently, and it's interesting how out there it was. And even like the Chloe Mintz-Plasse characters, like a teenage girl, she's using the C word and stuff. And I think was it Matthew Vaughan's first film? I think it was actually written by Jane Goodman. I mean, it's obviously based on the comic book, but Jane Goldman, who is Jonathan Ross's wife. Jonathan Ross, if you're British, you will know who Jonathan Ross is. He's kind of less good Graham Norton, a less good straight version of Graham Norton for Canadians listening. If you know who Graham Norton is. If you don't know who Graham Norton is, well, he is a better, gayer Jonathan Ross. Anyway, um, if you don't know, if you haven't seen the Graham Norton show, watch it. I do not know why Canada doesn't have a Graham Norton show. Needless to say, I have pitched doing a chat show like that here in Canada because it's absolutely ridiculous that we don't have such a thing. Same goes for Michael McIntyre's big show. Why we don't have that in Canada? There are so many things we don't have on Canadian TV that I do not understand. Canada is such a great country. There's so much to celebrate. There is so much comedic value here. I don't get why our comedy shows on TV. Why don't we have an 8 out of 10 Cats? Why don't we, 8 out of 10 lobsters? Anyway, yeah, I would. What's the funniest costume I've seen someone wear while doing something serious? Have to be the pirate I saw running the Grand Bay, running the Gondola Point ferry boat. Have I ever done something heroic that went viral or wished to have gone viral? No, I mean, I guess I've never done anything heroic. I don't think. I'll have a think about that. It's a good question, Mandy. Man sets record for most ice cream eaten in a minute. I bet I beat him on Saturday night. After afternoon on the beach drinking cans of Long Bay and found my son's Dairy Queen ice cream cake in the. I bet I beat him. A man broke the world record for eating the most ice cream eating in a minute, consuming an impressive amount without getting brain freeze. What's the most I've eaten? Oh, The most food I've eaten in a ridiculously short time. Well, I mentioned, I think last week, my favorite food, the chicken mix from Costco. The big thing of chicken mix. I've got through a whole one of them in one sitting. Um, I also, I'm known to gorge. Like I can get through a whole box of Ganong chocolates in one big box in one sitting. So I try. So I'm one of those people. I do try generally. Like most days, we eat healthily, but I'm also a binger. And so again, it's like I'll not drink for 2 weeks, and then I'll binge drink. Not proud of this, and kids don't try that at home. And similarly with food, I will try to eat healthy, and then sometimes just have a massive. I mean, Christmas is bad, and Halloween again. I always swear I'm not going to eat the candy, and then as soon as the kids go to sleep, I raid their rooms, sneak in like a chocolate junkie, stealing mini Mars bars and shovel them in so quickly um, before the guilt can kick in. I used to love McDonald's is the one thing that I kicked back in the day. Like, I mean, I'll still occasionally have a wrap, but I used to love Big Macs. Like, I would say Big Macs in my 20s, I used to just gorge on them. I'd eat a couple a day. Um, yeah, like the things in my basically around the same time that I kind of stopped using drugs, I stopped using McDonald's. Um, and which is more dangerous? Who knows? You never know. You don't know what they're putting in that shit, do you? You don't know what they're putting in that shit. When which I don't know which I'm referring to. Okay, I think that's all the questions. So I'll quickly whiz through what I've been doing. Is that all the questions? I think it is. I'll quickly whiz through what I've been going up to. I watched. That's what another obsession was. Sherwood, a British David Morrissey, a British a BBC TV series, kind of in the vein of Broadchurch, but a bit more grim about a former mining town, and how what went on with the strikes and Thatcher closing the mines and the divisive way in which towns were forced to choose to either strike or work, and how the strikers never forgave the workers, or as they called them, the scabs. Just fascinating. I just watched the first season, blew me away. And let me quickly see what else I've been watching. As you know, I'm a prolific, not prolific. I keep notes of everything. So yes, I've been watching The Office with my son Hunter. Watching Emily in Paris with my wife, which I've always resisted, and suddenly now have got Lily Collins, is Phil Collins' daughter. Um, so that would make her one of those, what do they call them, nepo babies. Well, my constant obsession always is Sunday morning after the St Andrews Comedy Festival. I had the pleasure of going 8:30 in the morning. Went into CHCO to record an interview with a wonderful Jonathan and Vicki Hogarth and Maud, the beautiful Doodle, and obviously Patrick, Vicky's husband, who's just an absolute hero. And Vicky asked me them. I mean, so that episode of CHGO will be out, I believe, in a week or two. And Vicky, I must give a shout out to. So for the St. because I perform in St Andrews so much, either at the Algonquin or at the Kingsbrae Amphitheatre, I constantly have to turn over new material. So every time I go, Vicky gives me intel. And my goodness, I mean, here's the big news story of the week. Here's the new big one. Local beekeeper in St Andrews. This is stuff that Vicky gave me that I then used. I opened this. I always open at the amphitheatre with 15 minutes of brand new written that week material. Terrifying, obviously. Always goes well though, because Vicki Hogarth knows exactly what to give me, and it's gold. Local beekeeper James Whitehead had 2 jars of honey stolen from him. Very sad. Theft is always bad. However, being St Andrews, um, the thief was kind enough to return the honey and also pay for it. Amazing. St Andrews, by the way, if you haven't been to St Andrews recently, go. Mayor Brad Henderson is just always on fire. And they have this security camera rebate program because there's been thefts. But there's been thefts. There's been some cars being stolen in St Andrews. But the thing that the St Andrews residents don't realise is that if they did actually just lock their cars and not leave the keys in the cars, maybe they wouldn't get stolen. And again, that's a similar problem in Rossay too. People are like, here's an amazing thing that in England people talk about how in the 1920s you didn't need to lock your doors. And it's like, yeah, well, guess what? In a place called New Brunswick, you don't need to. And then obviously occasionally people cotton on to the fact that everyone's leaving their keys in the cars and they steal them. Anyway, beautiful story that, basically the thief returned the honey. The clam digger, expanded their parking lot, which is very good news. So popular, it got like 10,000 likes on Facebook. Why? Because people, if you've ever crossed past the clam digger and all the crowds outside, people are literally risking life and limb to run across the 127 highway for deep fried seafood. Literally, every time you drive along, it's like you're driving along, you're going the speed limit, and then the people are just like sprinting across because they can't wait to get their hands on some breaded scampi. So anyway, it's one year anniversary of Subway opening in St Andrews. That was a scandal. Oh my God, people were kicking off. There was people posting on social media that Subway opening was going to attract homeless people. I don't know what I don't know what they've got against homeless people. I don't know what it is about Subways opening in small towns that attracts homeless people. But anyway, Subway's a year old, still no homeless people. So anyway, if you are homeless and you're listening to this, which you could be, head to St Andrews. It'll piss off some local. So Vicki gave me all this intel, and it's just so nice to be able to turn up at this and do this anyway. Vicki gave me all these questions. She had these amazing questions that she asked. So if you want to tune into CHCO, such good questions. Things like, what's the most adventurous thing I've done? What's my strangest and most unexpected talent? If I could only eat one thing for the rest of my life. What if I could have any superpower? What's my guilty pleasure? So anyway, tune into CHCO, and if you don't, we're going to do a big feature in Maute Made It on CHCO. They've actually pointed the Saint Croix. I should be able to pronounce this. I don't know how to pronounce it. The Saint Croix Courier, the local newspaper. They purchased it, CHCO. It's online for now. It might go to print if people can get on board and support with advertising, which we need to do. We've got to keep that newspaper alive. It's one of the last. Basically, Vicki Hogarth and her team at CHCO are single-handedly saving journalism in New Brunswick. And I'm doing a big feature on Vicki and CHCO and the St. Croix Courier in the next volume of the Maritime Edit. Okay, I'm going to go in a minute. I'm going to tell you a couple of inspirational things that I have learned and heard recently. I saw this. Someone said this. Alistair McCaw. A high work ethic and a good attitude puts you in places where good luck can find you. I like that phrase. You know why? I've never been a fan of that phrase. You know that phrase that successful rich bastards always use, where they go, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Which kind of suggests like the rest of us aren't working hard enough. That's why we're not millionaires, you know. Which so it always struck me as slightly an arrogant thing to say. It's like, well, yeah, okay, everyone works hard, and most of us work hard, and you had a shitload of luck. So, but I like that. A high work ethic and good attitude puts you in places where good luck can find you. So yeah, I guess the harder you work, the more likely you might be to do it. But anyway. This was Adam Grant tweeted this. This is from my friend Chris, sends out an inspirational email every week. Someone, one of his colleagues at Kent, I believe, compiles it. Wonderful people at Kent. Being obsessed with happiness can make us unhappy. Joy doesn't arise from ruminating about our emotions. It comes from immersing ourselves in worthwhile experiences. Happiness is not a goal to pursue. It's a byproduct of leading a life of meaning and engagement. It's not quite actually as good as I thought it was. Basically, I guess what it's saying is enjoy that cookie that you have. And finally, you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory, which I think we often do. I think anyone listening to this podcast is in that same mindset of me, that we do genuinely all try our best to appreciate every single moment. And I'm probably going to go in a minute and go and play some more soccer with River in the garden. And I have got very bloody good at, if there's one thing I've mastered recently, my superpower of late, it is being in the moment, enjoying those moments, playing soccer with my kids in the garden, doing stickers with them, just hanging out with Hunter coming on the road with me to St Andrews, and the two of us sharing a bed in the Kira house, sitting there watching UFC or The Office on a laptop. Those are those moments where I just sit down and I'm able to be completely present in the moment and enjoy it. And playing soccer with River in the garden, same thing. Just I'm in that moment, and I'm kind of getting better at just when I'm swimming at the YMCA, just like not trying to rush it and being like I need to go. My brain is going. It is quite annoying being in my head, and pretending that I just wishing my brain would shut up, and it does a bit. But I mean, of course, I guess part of that's helpful and it's productive, but all of that says I'm getting better at this. And anyway, so. I had a big meeting last week actually with Peter and Danny and Melanie at Symphony New Brunswick. I think I mentioned this earlier. So anyway, we've got so many fun things planned for those Symphony New Brunswick shows. So please do book tickets now. Anything else to add? I don't think so. I watched Bad Boys Ride or Die recently. Yesterday, in fact, I had it on in the background while I was working. Any movie that ends in a disused dinosaur theme park is good with me. So check out Bad Boys Where I Die. Like I mentioned, the Sherwood Emmys. Oh, lots of Brits won awards at the Emmys. Will Smith, not that Will Smith, the British Will Smith, the showrunner for Slow Horses. I used to do gigs with him in London years ago. Stand up. It's funny how like British stand ups. So much. Brett Goldstein, Richard Gadd, obviously won for Baby Reindeer, won 4 for Baby Reindeer, which was the most, alongside The Bear, which won 4. Although annoyingly, The Bear classified as a comedy, definitely not a comedy. A lot of people like it, but it is not funny. And what else? Oh, Hacks won Best Comedy, which I have not actually seen the 3rd season of yet. But that Hacks is one of the closest things to be films about stand-up that's actually somewhat vaguely accurate. So anyway, enjoyed the Anthony Joshua fight this Saturday. Enjoying the Hampton. Oh, by the way, another book to recommend, which I haven't actually read yet, but I know it's going to be good. Mark Blagrave, thank you for sending me your novel Felt. Mark has sent me. I just got it in the mail today. Knowing how much you love St Andrews, I thought you might be interested in my new novel set in St Andrews, from Mark Blagrave. And reading the synopsis, it looks absolutely phenomenal. And this guy, so many good reviews for his books, and just absolutely gorgeous cover and beautiful printing. Oh, this Saturday, speaking of books, this Saturday is Buy a New Brunswick Book Day. So buy a New Brunswick book, but I will be at Indigo at East Point. Indigo, East Point, Fashion Drive in St. John, from 10:30 a.m. till 12:30. Thanks to all of you being so kind to read my book, and if you did. It is officially a national bestseller. It sold out of its first run of 5,000 copies, which is that a lot? But I don't know. That's what basically, if you sell 5,000, you're a national bestseller. So it's been reprinted, new, slightly new design on the cover. Some of the wonderful magazine and book reviews inside it. Anyway, so I will be selling copies. I will be signing copies this Saturday at Indigo. I will also be doing a little Q&A. I'll do anything you want. If the genie comes and give a stranger a hand job, I'll do that. I will not, actually. I won't. If someone wants a hand job, I won't be doing it in Indigo. We'll go next door to Second Cup, at the very least. And I'm going to get in trouble for that. I do not give hand jobs in Second Cup. I promise. We will go across the road to Cleves, so I can wear a hockey glove to do it. That makes it more acceptable. That's acceptable. Could you give a hand job with a hockey glove? You probably have to a boxing glove. Who knows? Who knows? I have to ask Anthony Joshua. Maybe he'll give someone a hand job at Wembley Stadium this Saturday. I'm going to go this Saturday. Chapters Indigo. There won't be any hand jobs, but there will be stories. I'm also going to be reading a chapter from my second book that no one has heard yet, and it's a story about a friendship relationship / possible stalking relationship I had with Kate Winslet. Yes, all of that really happened. And finally, I'm actually writing did I mention this last week? I can't remember. A feature for a global travel magazine on the Kingston Peninsula, if you can believe it. So if anyone has any stories about the Kingston Peninsula historically, or indeed amazing things that are there, I know there's domes, I know there's La Belle Cabane, there's the amazing spa there. Any Kingston Peninsula things that I should be including, please email me, comedy@jamesmanager.com. Send me your questions also for next week. Thanks for listening. This seemed to be the biggest ramble ever. But just keep the questions coming. Have a great weekend. And yeah, that's it. I mean, why do I not know how to end these things? Why do it just go? It should have just gone. But still going. comedy@jamesmanager.com. Send me your questions. Genuinely appreciate you listening. Find these extremely cathartic. I will be in the garden playing soccer if you need me, or sitting on the beach looking at Long Island. You don't care. You've probably signed off by now. Thanks for listening. I love you all very much. Goodbye.
Manager's Weekly Ramble.